All right, so we're going to take a deep dive into The Long Good Friday. This one, it's supposed to be like a classic gangster movie, but from what I've heard, it's more than just your typical, cops and robbers kind of thing.
Yeah, it's interesting how this movie uses the whole gangster thing to show us what Britain was like back in the late 70s. Like, you see the social and political changes happening right there on screen, not just the crimes.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But to get us started, what's the story about?
So it's all about Harold Sham. He's this gangster, right? But he's trying to go legit, become a businessman. He's got these big ambitions, wants to make deals with American investors, get out of the whole the traditional underworld stuff.
But of course, things don't exactly go to plan.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's where the movie gets interesting. You got these mysterious attacks that start happening, and they're all aimed at Harold's crew.
Oh, so someone's trying to muscle in on his territory.
Well, it's not that simple. It's like these attacks, they represent something new, a different kind of threat, something that Harold just doesn't get. Like, he's used to power coming from, reputation, being tough, but this new enemy, they're playing a whole different game.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. So it's like the old ways of doing things, they don't work anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just about muscle anymore. But before we get into all that, let's talk about Harold Shand himself. The review said Bob Hoskins, he just nailed the performance.
Oh, yeah. He's great in everything. I mean, just an amazing actor.
Yeah, in this one, he's, it's a powerful performance. He makes Harold both terrifying and kind of charming, which, I mean, that's hard to pull off. He's a ruthless gangster, right?
Yeah.
But you also see this vulnerability, especially when things start falling apart around him. And that last scene in the car, man, that's acting gold right there.
From the way you're talking about it, it sounds like you almost feel bad for the guy, even though he's obviously, not a good guy.
Yeah, that's it. He's a complicated character. And the movie doesn't shy away from that. You see his ambition, you see how ruthless he can be, but you also see his fear, the desperation when he starts losing control.
So, what about the other characters? Helen Mirren's in this too, right?
Mm.
What's her role in all of this?
Oh, yeah. She plays Victoria, Harold's partner. She's a really interesting counterpoint to Harold, He's all impulsive, quick to violence, but she's more composed, more strategic,
So she's like the brains of the operation.
In a way, yeah. You could see her as representing a more modern approach to power, which makes their dynamic, really fascinating.
So we've got this clash of personalities, a gangster facing a new kind of enemy, and all of this is happening in late 70s Britain. I read the review, mentioned the film looks really, really authentic, captures the era perfectly.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You see these decaying docks, right? Like a symbol of the old order crumbling, but right next to them, you've got these brand new, shiny developments. It's like this visual representation of the power shift that's happening, and it mirrors Harold's own struggle to stay on top.
Wow, that visual contrast, that's a really clever way to show what's going on, the themes of change and all that.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get why this film is considered so well made.
Yeah, and it's not just the visuals. They use this synth-heavy music that really builds the tension, almost gives it this futuristic vibe. It really reflects, I think, the anxieties of that time. Britain was going through some big changes, and there was this uncertainty about the future.
So it's got that gritty realism showing the old industries dying out, but also this futuristic feeling that hints at what's to come. It's a pretty powerful mix, But were there any parts of the film that didn't really work? The review mentioned some criticisms.
Yeah, even a classic like this has, some flaws. One thing they pointed out was the political stuff might be a little hard to follow, especially for people who aren't that familiar with British history.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, if you don't know about the IRA and all that, you might miss some of the nuances.
Right, exactly. And then there's the violence. Some critics thought it was a bit too sudden, too jarring.
Oh, so like out of nowhere kind of violence.
Yeah, but personally, I think it adds to the suspense, Keeps you on edge, never knowing what's going to happen next.
Oh, I see. It's like a deliberate choice to keep the audience guessing. So anything else the review mentioned?
Yeah, the last thing was the bad guys. They're kind of faceless, We don't really get much backstory on them.
Oh, so you don't really know why they're doing what they're doing.
Exactly. And that could be frustrating for some viewers, Leaves you with a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah, I could see that. But I guess it also adds to the mystery and the suspense, right?
Yeah, for sure. You're left guessing till the very end.
So even with those criticisms, it sounds like there's still a lot to like about The Long Good Friday. Before we move on, can you give us like the highlight reel? What did the review say we absolutely have to watch out for?
Oh, definitely Bob Hoskins. His performance is the main attraction. I mean, you can't miss that. But beyond that, the story itself, it's so tense, so unpredictable. It just keeps you hooked. And then, of course, there's that final scene. Oh, man, it's brilliant. The acting, the directing, it's something else. Yeah, it's one of those endings that you keep thinking about it, long after the movie's over. It makes you think about everything that happened. Like, it all leads up to that moment.
Man, you're really selling this. So what's the final verdict? What rating did they give The Long Good Friday?
9 out of 10. They called it a landmark British gangster film and one of the most influential crime movies ever,
9 out of 10. Wow, they don't just throw those around. Okay, I'm starting to get why this is more than just another gangster movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's how it mixes these big ideas with a story that just grabs you and doesn't let go, You're invested in the characters, you want to know what happens next, but you're also thinking about these themes, power and change and ambition and what it all costs.
So it's like you can enjoy it on different levels, right? You can just watch it for the thrills, or you can really dig into all the deeper stuff.
Exactly. And you know what? It's a movie that you can watch it more than once and you'll still find new things in it.
Oh, I like those kinds of movies. The ones that make you think. So let's talk about those themes a bit more. What really jumped out at you from the review?
Well, like we said, it's all about power, right? How you get it, how you hold on to it, and how you can lose it. Harold, he's like this symbol of the old way of doing things. Power is all about, reputation, being tough, using force. But then these attacks start happening and he doesn't understand them, It's like it's a whole new set of rules and it throws him off completely.
And it's interesting how, like, Harold's struggles, they kind of reflect what was happening in Britain at the time.
Exactly. You got the old industries dying out, new ways of making money coming in, the political scene all messed up. It's like Harold trying to hold on to his power. It's like a metaphor for a whole way of life that's disappearing.
It's like he's stuck in the past.
Yeah.
And the movie's saying that if you don't change with the times, you get left behind.
Right. And then there's the betrayal, which is like a constant thing in the movie. You never know who to trust, who's going to turn on who next.
Man, that sounds intense. Like, it must keep you guessing the whole time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But it's not just there for the suspense. I think it also says something about power itself, Like how the more you chase it, the more everyone around you becomes an enemy, even the people you think you're close to.
That's a good point. It's like even when you're at the top, you're still vulnerable, and then all that power, it can turn on you.
Yeah.
So without spoiling anything, how does the movie tie all this together? What did they say about the ending?
Unforgettable, they said. It makes you think about the whole movie, all the themes, and what it means, for your own life.
So it's not like a Hollywood ending, everything tied up neatly.
Not really. It's more like kind of bleak, It leaves you with a lot to think about. But that's what makes it so good, It doesn't give you easy answers. It makes you work for it.
Yeah, I like movies that respect the audience.
Yeah.
Don't treat them like they can't handle some complexity. So for someone watching The Long Good Friday today, what makes it, worth their time?
It's a movie that still has something to say. It talks about things that are still happening today. The fight for power, what it means to be betrayed, that feeling that the world's changing too fast. It's all still relevant in the 21st century, right?
Yeah, it's amazing how a movie can be about a specific time and place, but still be about, like, universal human experiences.
And this one, it does it with a great story, characters you care about, and this visual style that's, like, both gritty and beautiful. It's a movie that people should see and talk about.
You've convinced me. I'm adding it to my list. Anything else you want to leave our listener with? A final thought before we wrap up? I'm all ears. Laid on me.
Well, think about this, right? The movie, it's about Britain changing, but what if it was happening today? I mean, everything's global now. Technology's going crazy. The whole world's like shifting all the time. How would that change the story? It makes you think about how we see power now in the 21st century.
Yeah, it's like the film is asking us to make those connections ourselves,
Yeah.
See how those same ideas are still playing out today in our own lives.
And that's what makes a great film, right? It stays with you, it makes you see things differently, even after it's over.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think we've really gotten into the nitty-gritty of The Long Good Friday today. It's definitely more than just a gangster movie, and I appreciate you breaking it all down for us.
Oh, it was my pleasure. I mean, there's always something new to discover when you really look closely at something like this.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you enjoyed getting into the guts of this classic film with us. And, well, if you'll excuse me, I've got a movie to watch. Until next time, happy viewing.